Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to race number 6 of the season for the RTG Dirt Street Stock Series. Sponsored tonight by Too Slow Graphics as we're preparing for qualifying races here for this evening's event. Looks like a total of 11 drivers going to be taking the green flag here this evening, so we may have only 2 heats here tonight. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Bronson Stafford. And Bronson, we've been watching these guys in practice. Not a whole lot of high speeds for these drivers, but is there any kind of different approach these drivers are going to have here at Eldora as opposed to any other type of dirt track?
I'm not too sure, Seth, honestly. I think Eldora is one of the better of the dirt tracks on the service. I think it's a lot more racy, and I think that can really help out for guys that aren't starting on the front row. You know, they can actually put the car in a different line and go for it as they just are about to go green here.
And it will be Brian Hogue that's going to get us underway here. 8 laps in this heat. This is basically just going to determine the qualifying results for the main event. All drivers will be taking part in the main event race, which will be 50 laps in length. Also in this group were Tim Deschwart, Steve Robbins, Michael Massey, Grant Wesley, and Patrick Spangler. Deschwart really needing a good starting track position tonight since he comes in the points leader.
Yeah, you can already see, like, what I was talking about with the lanes. You see 3-4 different lanes working out, and you kind of already see, like, 3 wide for the lead, a little bit of contact on the low line there. But the 14 of Brian Hogue, who did start this race from the first position, has cleared off of second and third and getting able to run where he wants to.
One thing that I'm noticing here, as opposed to the broadcasting we did earlier on this season, these drivers not really being able to get away from each other. It used to be that driver kind of would pull away, but you've had about 5 drivers all up here in the same vicinity. Patrick Spangler kind of hanging back there for the moment, which may not be the worst place to be just in case these guys wreck.
Yeah, they're really going after it for second, third, fourth, even fifth position. So if you're Patrick Spangler back there, you're watching this and you're thinking maybe they'll take each other out and just get by him. And keep seeing contact as they come off the corners, as they all just kind of float up to the same line just due to how the dirt tracks work, really.
Yeah, Tim Deschwart was in a very difficult position there moments ago, stuck in the 4-wide situation, third car on that 4-wide situation, and then got run to the back of by Michael Massey. Now Brian Hogue starts to open the gap. Grant Wesley trying to take second away from Steve Robbins, and I kind of wondered when we would start to see him migrate closer up to that top side. That's where he seems to like to be, right up against the wall at these dirt tracks.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what lines are really coming in. Michael Massey really using that high side right up along the cushion of it right now, and he's making a run now for third. A little bit of contact on 2-3, but that's not going to hurt the street stocks. These things are pretty much built like a tank, and he's going to get third position off of turn 4.
Yeah, one thing we see as opposed to the late models, which they'll be running later on tonight here with the street stocks, as you alluded to, they're more than willing to shove, push, bump, beat, because these cars can take a beating. We'll be interested to see if these drivers are going to be willing to use up their race cars in the main event here, as well as we've got a battle for the lead here coming to the white in this heat. Now 3 cars going to battle it out. Hogue, Wesley, and Massey.
Yeah, Wesley was starting to put the pressure on Hogue and really kind of shake it up, and that allowed Michael Massey to come right up off the high side, as now he was actually drawing even this time entering turn 3. It's going to be really close off the turn 4 to the finish line to see who wins heat 1.
He's going to try and get up to the outside. Can't quite do it, as Hogue was able to throw the block and get the win here in this heat, which means Brian Hogue is going to be starting on point. And why this is kind of interesting, too, because so far we have had 5 races this season. 5 different drivers have gone to victory lanes. You have to wonder if they might make it a perfect 6 for 6.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that. That's a fun little stat to have. 5 races, 5 different winners. That I think that really just shows how different, even if you're good at dirt, how a different type of dirt track can kind of throw you for a loop. Because typically you get, typical leagues on ovals or road courses, you'll kind of see the same people run up front. But 5 races, 5 winners. That's a good little statistic.
6 drivers. We're in the first heat. 5 drivers in this second heat, as Sean Kerrigan will be the pole sitter for this one, alongside of Brian Ordo, Scott Monksgaard, Ryan Stillwell, and Terry Ballman. That is going to be the 5 drivers in this heat. We saw how Tim Deschwart, I think he finished either 4th or 5th in that first heat. The driver he's worrying about coming into tonight's race is Ryan Stillwell, 8 points back. So we'll see what Ryan, starting from the 4th position, what he'll be able to do, and see between himself and the 49 who's going to have the better starting track position and thusly maybe be in line to gain the most points here tonight, Eldora.
Yeah, Tim Zwart only finished, I think, 5th in that first heat after racing for 2nd and 3rd most of it. So this could be definitely like a little point steal going on in over the course of the night.
Now, we saw obviously all 8 laps of the first heat run. I can't necessarily say clean because obviously we saw some beating and banging, but obviously we ran the whole thing without a caution. Here in this one, I'm expecting the same thing, but what little things can you possibly learn from these heat races that you can later on apply to the 50-lapper?
Slightly how the track probably evolves a little bit from low side to high side, or really maybe where you're more comfortable running, as you already see right off the get-go here. Kerrigan kind of gave up the outside line right away and decided to stick it with 3 wide, but he's coming back on the bottom now here in 3 and 4 as actually they make some contact with 3 and 4 for a second, and it's interesting to see where people like to run on this, and I think that's what I really like about Eldora. There's so many different lines you can actually run and be quick on, as we've already seen through what is only 10 laps.
And we obviously know Ryan Stillwell is fast because he started 4th and he's already up to the race lead, had to muscle his way past Brian Ordo to get the spot, and now trying to open up a little bit of daylight between himself and the 71. Sean Kerrigan still down there in the bottom. Look at Terry Bauman riding the high line there. He's going to try and slide by for 3rd.
Yeah, I think these guys are watching what Massey was doing on the last couple laps there. Is you kind of see them all up on the top now. This one, only one still down there is Kerrigan in the 15. Everyone else has moved up to the high side, and it's just going to work that line in further. It's going to push it a little bit further, closer to the wall, and it's just kind of working the track in for the main event.
And a big reason why they might be doing this is because so many drivers ran the lower line in the first heat. It's all used up down there, so they're going up where there may be a little bit more grip in that outside line. During the heats, the track conditions do not change. They remain from one session to the other, but then when we end up getting to race, these drivers will have a brand new clean racetrack, be able to utilize any groove that they want to and be able to find some grip. And then of course can also have about 5 minutes of happy hour between this heat race and the main event to be able to test out those new conditions.
Yeah, the tracks evolve a lot with dirt racing, from what lines are going to be better or not. There's a battle for 2nd place now between Orto and Bauman. They're going after it pretty hard, as you actually see Orto using the lower line, trying to get it going again. He was in 2nd, trying to make a run, but you can see he already lost the position now and goes right back to the top.
As we're riding inside of Terry Bauman's machine at the dirt track, it's all about counter steering. These drivers, the old adage, turn right to go left, is exactly what these drivers are doing. The only problem is I think we saw Brian Ordo have the issue earlier on there. As you're turning right, the car wants to snap around coming off the corner, and instinctually you want to turn left. You have to make sure you don't turn too far left, or else that back end might come around on you, coming off of especially turn 4.
Yeah, it's one of the tricky things with dirt racing. I think there's such a skill gap there between the guys on the sim that are the absolute best at dirt racing. You can see they can just kind of put their cars wherever they want. As that was the end of the 2nd heat. Not too much happened in that one compared to the first one. Just 8 laps, kind of looked like they were just kind of working the track in almost.
Yeah, pretty much. And now that kind of makes me wonder because we saw most of our drivers in that first heat take the inside line, or at least the first 2 grooves on the inside line. Most drivers, about 3 or 4 of them in the second heat, decided to go up there to the top side. Do you think that maybe puts some of these guys in the first heat at a bit of a disadvantage? I mean, are they going to have to try and learn what that top side can do here in this warm-up?
Maybe a little bit, but I mean, you definitely did see them starting to move up towards the end of that first heat. But for sure, this warm-up is kind of where you'll learn where you're going to be running for the race, at least for the first 10 or 15 laps until the track starts to wear out that lane, and you got to move around and look around for some more fresh dirt.
You mentioned the fact that 5 drivers have won the first 5 races this season. There's only 1 driver in the field here tonight that could be the first multi-time winner this year, as the other 4 drivers are not in the field. John Ratley, Terry Joyner, AJ Cruz, and Shane Yates have all taken checkered flags, but Timothy Deschwart, who won back at Williams Grove 2 weeks ago, has a chance here to pick up his second win in 3 races, and of course, try and extend his points lead as well over Ryan Stillwell, who is going to be starting up on the outside of the front row due to winning that second heat.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. The other 4 are not actually here, so only Timothy can make it a repeat winner. But based off that first heat, he didn't look super comfortable, at least with the car. Started second and finished 5th, so I think he's definitely got some ground to make up.
Point standings coming into this one. Behind the top 2, 20 points back rather, is Steve Robbins. Brian Ordo is 31 points back. Brian Hogue is going to be 34 points back. That is your top 5 of the drivers that are in the field here tonight. Michael Massey in 6th, Scott Monksgaard in 7th, Terry Baum in 8th, Sean Kerrigan 9th, and Grant Wesley 10th. So your entire top 10 in the point standings are in the field here tonight. I believe the 11th driver that's in the field, Patrick Spangler, he is 14th in the points coming into this race. So at least for all these drivers that are in the field here tonight, for most of them, they're at least keeping their top 10 in the point standings preserved. I'm just not really certain with some of these drivers that are 30 plus points back. I don't know if they've really got a whole lot of time to be able to work their way up to the points lead, especially if drivers like Deschwart and Stillwell continue to have good, consistent runs up inside of the top 3.
Yeah, there's just simply not enough races left for him. But I mean, you can still go out, try and win some races and make up as much as possible. Who knows? Maybe they'll miss a race or something, you know? So it's definitely just one of those situations where it is what it is. You take what you can get and just have some fun doing it.
So we saw those 2 8-lap heats go green from the start of the race to the end of the race. How aggressive do you think we're going to see these drivers here at the initial drop of the green flag, based on the fact there are 50 laps of racing, but it only takes them about 20 seconds to make a lap around here?
Yeah, 50 laps is not a long time. 20-second lap times and only 50 laps. You're gonna fly through those laps. You'll spend probably the first 10 figuring out where you want to run. After that, it's just kind of race, really get as many spots as you can, try and race as hard as you can, and go from there. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe not too aggressive. As the last thing you want to do is obviously wreck the car or get too much damage or something on them. But the nice thing about the street stocks is, as we've mentioned, they are really durable. So it adds a little bit of leeway. But for sure, 50 laps, you can't wait too long.
Watching this right here on track under this warm-up session, Ryan Stillwell and Tim Deschwart battling side by side. They are the 2 fastest cars on the racetrack right now, but Stillwell with an edge, and he was really fast in his heat. So are we looking at him maybe as the favorite to take the checkered flag here tonight?
Yeah, Stillwell was definitely really quick, and I think it's hard not to, you know, maybe give him that little bit of an edge, as he's been quickest all night long. He, you know, went out and won his heat and everything, and started from 4th and got up front really quick and won. So it's hard not to put a little bit of faith on him.
About 20 seconds away from this warm-up session coming to a close, and then these drivers will line up according to where they finished in their respective heats. The first heat determined the inside of each respective row. The second heat determined the outside of each respective row. Gonna have 11 drivers that will be taking the green flag in this one tonight. And on the pole, of course, is going to be the winner from our first heat, that being Brian Hogue, who is in almost a 3-wide situation coming to the start-finish line, and he'll be starting alongside of Ryan Stillwell, who very comfortably took that win in his second heat, as the field is now gridding up and they're getting ready to go. The rest of the way that they'll line up, it's going to be Michael Massey and Terry Bauman in row 2, Grant Wesley, Brian Ordo in row 3, Steve Robbins and Scott Monksgaard in row 4, Tim Deschwart all the way back in 9th with Sean Kerrigan in row 5, and Patrick Spangler is going to complete the rest of the field. Couple of drivers that have some interesting storylines coming into this one. Be interesting to see how they do here tonight. Grant Wesley has only run 2 of the 5 races this season. A couple of them due to the fact that he was not home. One of the races he missed because he was down at the Bristol race, and then I believe he was out hiking in the country a couple of weeks ago, so missing a couple of races there. He's always seems to be a driver that's up there at the end in one of these type of races. And Terry Bauman, I was talking with him a couple of days ago, and he says that he thinks he's going to be a lot more competitive here in these upcoming weeks because apparently he was running incorrect settings with his wheel for dirt, and we saw he was pretty fast there in his heat race. We'll see if now everything's going to be able to turn around for that 69 machine.
Well, that's always interesting. If you can correct something that was wrong and pick up some more speed, then you found the issue and you're good to go. So that'll be interesting to watch for sure. But yeah, as you're saying, Grant Wesley, missing a couple of races, always been solid. You kind of wonder what could have been, maybe if he's made all the races for points and whatnot. And it's just that's kind of what happens sometimes with racing, real or virtual.
Brian Hogue so far this season only has one top five, and he has made every start so far. Could maybe his second top five of the season be a trip to victory lane? He's going to have to start in that inside line, and Stillwell, who is very comfortable in the top side in his heat, is going to be on his outside. So we'll see if Hogue can hold off Stillwell as the green flag is out. 50 laps of racing tonight at Eldora.
Yeah, they're already going 3 wide in the turn 1. As it looked like someone didn't quite get a good start, but already a battle for the lead. Oh, they're almost touching down the back into turn 3. But still well into the wall a little bit. That's going to not actually slow him down at all. I thought that'd hamper the efforts, but he's already going to clear for the lead up front.
You mentioned the fact that these street stocks can take a beating, so getting up there into the wall, especially if it's only with the right rear, they might still be okay. It's all a matter of if their momentum can stay up off the corner, as Stillwell now has a rear decklet on that top side full of Michael Massey. Look at Brian Hogue, slide job, but it's not going to work as Stillwell crosses him over.
Yeah, he tried the slide job, but Stillwell saw it coming, backed it up, crossed him over, but it did allow the 45 of Massey to throw it down in there, now going for second position on Brian Hogue, who is still not giving up for that lead. As it's so hard to tell if they're actually 3 wide or it's just the way they're entering, but you can see all the different lines really good.
I think for a brief moment we were 3 wide, 3 different battles, and that was for the lead for 4th and for 7th, as it's going to be Stillwell getting the advantage off the corner. Brian Hogue's lost a second. Now he's going to drive it deep again, looking for the top spot. Tries to slide up in front. Oh, he was able to get to the his rear bumper in front of Stillwell. They're making more contact.
Yeah, he pulled the slide job there a little bit better that time. He learned from the first time and backed it up and actually ended up parking in front. Lots of contact going on right now, though. Oh, man, they are going after it for every position right now. And,
boy, I thought Brian Orta was flipping. I thought he was going to go straight into the outside wall there off the nose of Steve Robbins.
I thought we'd have 10 or 15 laps to at least see what's going to happen, Seth, but we're on lap 6, and we've almost had a flip.
Michael Massey now to the inside of Brian Hogue for second. These two trying to catch up to Ryan Stillwell. They're still racing 3 wide behind them. That, I believe, was Grant Wesley, Steve Robbins, and Brian Orta. As Massey gets a little loose there, up into Brian Hogue, who pounds the outside wall.
Yeah, they're still going after for second position. Here comes Wesley on the top side of the racetrack, trying to get that 4th position away from Steve Robbins, and that's been a battle that's been going pretty much since the get-go of this race. Meanwhile, Stillwell probably loving this. He's by himself, doesn't have to worry about anyone. He can actually just kind of pull away now as he actually gets the wall off of turn 2. So everyone's still pushing hard, and you can just see it in the way that they're driving, knocking down the wall, knocking down each other, and there
Brian
goes
Hogue
14.
is going to...
He saved it. Yeah, he got it. I think he got the inside wall, but he did keep that car straight.
Got a little bit of help from, I think that was
Oh,
Grant
there's
Wesley.
Two.
And there's a caution. Brian Orto in the 71, I believe, went around. He's collected up Grant Wesley and Patrick Spangler.
They got going before the pace truck caught them, so they'll stay on the lap at least. Brian Orto's got a lot of front end damage to that 71 car, though.
Big question is, how? How did it take them to lap 9 to actually bring out the first caution with the type of racing we saw right there? Now, you bring up the point about the damage sustained by Brian Orto. I mean, a lot of times we see that it's all about your corner speed at these dirt tracks. Do you necessarily have to have a car that has to have that front end to still be up to speed and still be competitive?
I would say no, at least for the street stocks. I think they don't go quick enough, like only about 90 miles an hour. I don't really think speed's too important at that point. But the thing you really got to worry about at that point is, did you knock the camber or the toe out of it? Did you know, maybe knock something off in your radiator, make the car get a little bit hotter? Just anything that can that can hurt your performance, and actual acceleration is kind of more important, if anything.
We saw there a replay of what brought out the caution, and one thing that I talked to a number of drivers about the last time we broadcasted here for this league was everybody, as the run goes on, wants to migrate up to that top side, and different drivers have different ways that they approach that outside line, and that's usually where contact happens with stack-ups. That's what happened right there, as I believe it was Michael Massey checked up in front of Grant Wesley, then Wesley went around off the nose of Steve Robbins and down into the 71 of Brian Ordo. Just typical of what you see at these dirt tracks. Not a whole lot of room to run when everybody wants the same line.
Yeah, that's just what happens with tracks like this. It's so hard to tell what's going on as the pace truck is already off, and you can see Ryan Stillwell get on the gas nice and easy, gets away already from the rest of the field, and they're already going back at it for second, third, fourth, even fifth position.
Tim Deschwart, remember he started in the 9th position. He's now been able to work his way up to 5th. I think that was Wesley that got the wall again back there, slowly, methodically working his way up towards the front. And this is what he needs to do based on the fact the guy that's trying to take the points lead away from him is out in front in clean air.
Yeah, for sure. If you're Tim, you're seeing the guy leading, and that's your target. You got to try and keep pace with him, and he's working his way up the field nicely. He didn't have a great Heat 1 finish, but here he comes already up into the 4th position, and you know he's sitting pretty good right now.
Patrick Spangler, Grant Wesley getting the wall again. Woo, Brian Ho getting a little loose there coming off the corner as Deschwart trying to get to the inside of Steve Robbins for 3rd, can't quite do it. You got pretty much the top 3, now maybe top 4, all single file, and that's so strange to say just based on the double and 3 wide racing we saw in the first 10 laps of this race.
Yeah, I think they won't realize they still have 40 laps to go, because this is the calmest they've been yet, really. And you know, it's get some laps under your belt here, get used to the track a little bit more. They're going at it for 2nd position a little bit here with Massey and Robbins, but not too bad. They're giving each other a lot of room compared to earlier.
You think the reason why it's kind of tamed down as well is we had so many different drivers running so many different lines. Most grooves are now rubbered in, so there's not a whole lot of new grip to be able to find.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Is you know, you had them 2, 3, 4 wide across the track. Every line's going to get rubber put down, and it just kind of gets harder to run more and more lines. You know, it becomes a little bit easier to kind of keep off each other when every lane has a little bit of grip.
Ryan Stillwell there in the 9 machine continuing to show the way. The battle is here. 3 cars make it 4. As, holy cow, Grant Wesley enters stage left on our camera as he tried to pass about 3 cars there going from 6th to 3rd, but had to really check up on corner exit.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael
Massey's
Massey!
mounting the wall.
Vicious.
He's in trouble. He's still on that wall.
Still riding the wall. My goodness.
That car does not look good. It looks a little beat up now.
I think he's got a problem. It's like that car couldn't even turn left going into the corner. Yeah, that car's just going straight. Something's really wrong on that car.
That's what I was talking about earlier with that first wreck, is if you knock the toe or camber out of it, this is kind of what happened. It seems like that might be what happened to Massey. See if he can get it back going in a couple laps or something. He didn't come to pit road, so I think he's just going to try and ride it out. But, you know, from 2nd position all the way back to 11th now, and battle for 2nd is now Robbins and Deschwart.
Patrick Spangler, who got a little piece of the first caution, now up in that 4th spot as well. Grant Wesley in 5th as Deschwart tries to block Steve Robbins and almost successfully did it. Robbins going to try and cross him over into the next turn, but looking in terms of Michael Massey, I mean, that's a tough break for him. He had the 2nd fastest lap of this race so far. The fastest lap has gone to Grant Wesley at 20.185, and he hasn't spent any time out in front yet.
Yeah, Grant Wesley's definitely had some good quick laps together. You can see it, and he gets so close to the guys in front, and he just looks like he runs out of somewhere to go. Like he's just not as comfortable in the other lines. As battle for 2nd still is not over quite yet, as here comes Patrick Spangler trying to get it from Timothy Deschwart.
And he's going to complete the pass, stacks up to Deschwart, who now has Robbins to his inside, so a nice move by the driver up to 10. Here comes Robin trying to take second. Now he'll have to settle for third, and now he's going to have to check up and lose some momentum. Deschwart will move back into a podium spot.
And just like that, Grant Wesley now looking underneath of him here for 4th position, and Ryan Hogue, who started this race from the pole, is slowly working his way back in. As I say that, he gets a little too sideways, saves it, and didn't actually lose too much ground since they came off turn 2 side by side in front of him.
Steve Robbins was up into the wall there as well. And one thing that I'm certain that these, the rates admins will be looking at is drivers utilizing the wall to their advantage. A lot of times at these dirt tracks, drivers can go up there, ride that wall, and not lose momentum. But I know that I've been told by league admins here that they discourage that as much as possible, telling these drivers that, if you have to use it to save you, then okay, but do not use it to be able to try and make a pass on somebody. And there've been a number of drivers that have been up there into the wall, and I don't think it's necessarily been by choice.
Yeah, you've just seen how close it's been. They've just kind of gotten the wall, and no one's really gained anything from it, but Massey certainly lost a lot from the wall, and I think that shows the fine line of, yeah, you can use the wall to maybe gain a little bit of speed, but if you get into it a little too hard, you can break the car like Michael Massey did.
Gap is now opened up to nearly 2 seconds from Ryan Stillwell. Back to this battle for second as Spangler clobbers the wall pretty good there off of 2. We're now halfway through this 50-lap main event. Now, I know that obviously being on dirt, these drivers' tire wear is the least of their concern. Oh, gracious, it's just Deschwart almost went down the inside wall, but now as we've gotten quite a number of laps under our belt, we're halfway through this race. What are some of the things that these drivers are experiencing that they didn't experience in the first 25 laps?
Definitely visibility. Your front windshield, or your helmet, visor, all that stuff, it's going to be starting to get clobbered with dust and dirt, clops of it just sitting there, and it obstructs your visibility. And as much as maybe it's not as bad as you'd think, it can be pretty annoying. I've done a couple dirt races, and it just throws you off. You can't quite see the apex, you can't see another car quite because they're hidden behind a piece of dirt, and it can be a little bit of a challenge to stay aware of your surroundings when you can't exactly see all of your surroundings.
Probably one of the most fun cameras to utilize when you're at a dirt track is the in-car camera, because the hands, they're constantly working. The wheel is constantly turning left and right. I mean, these drivers have to be exhausted even after 50 laps, I would assume, because they're putting so much effort into keeping these cars straight or having them turn through the corners.
I will say one thing too, Seth. These dirt tracks are not kind to hardware. It's a constant battle on your actual rig itself and the wheel and the force feedback if you run with it, and it can be pretty daunting, and sometimes your wheel makes some scary sounds afterwards.
And Wesley and Tim Deschwart continuing to swap back and forth at second position. Ryan Stillwell, the race leader, starting to catch something we haven't talked about tonight because we haven't really had to. He's now caught some traffic. That's Michael Massey, and as he tried to get around him, Stillwell up and into the wall. You would think that Ryan Stillwell, with having the gap he's got right now, he can kind of run the line he wants and not slide up into that outside wall. But to your point, the fact that this track is so difficult on hardware and it's so difficult on the drivers, there's no guarantee that even though you've got this gap, that the turns you're going to make are not going to send you up into that outside wall.
Yeah, it's just the track constantly evolving and just everything like that. You can see just in 3 and 4, like how dark and rubbered up the track really is there, just from everyone running the high side. It's getting there in 1 and 2 as well, and I'm kind of surprised no one's given it too much of a shot down on the low side, or maybe it's just that it's not quite there yet. But that gap for first and second is consistently over 2.5 seconds right now. But Grant Wesley has finally cleared away from Timothy Deschwart, and maybe can see what he can do with lap times and run down Ryan Stillwell, as that lap was almost 2 full tenths quicker actually.
He's been a little bit quicker the last couple of laps than Ryan Stillwell. He finally has cleared Deschwart for that second spot. Deschwart nowhere close enough to be able to mount a challenge. He's got the slower machine of Michael Massey down to the inside, the lap machine. He's gonna have to make up about 2.4 seconds between himself and Ryan Stillwell, and just based on the fact he's running about 2 to 3 tenths faster every lap. Don't necessarily know if 16 laps is enough time to do it.
If he can keep up the pace of 2 to 3 tenths a lap, he can pretty much just get there. But then you run into the issue of how do you pass the guy running the same line as you?
Of course, as well, for Grant Wesley, he comes into this race down in the 10th position in points. Ryan Stillwell, he's up in second, trying to get himself into a battle for the championship. As battle back here, about 3 cars mixing it up just inside of the top 5. Steve Robbins, Patrick Spangler, Brian Hogue. Hogue trying to take 5th place away from Spangler while splitting up the middle, the lap machine of Michael Massey.
Yeah, the top 2, even top 3. Oh!
Then carved Spangler up onto the wall. Unfortunately, that car didn't flip.
Yeah, he got off the wall quick. He didn't ride it for pretty much a whole lap like Massey did, and you can see he's still able to keep up with Brian Hogue. He didn't lose too much there, but I was just getting ready to say, you can kind of see how much it's spread out now for the top 3, even 4 positions. They're kind of just battling now for about 5th and 6th, a little bit for 3rd and 4th.
One thing that you commented on when we were watching these guys in practice is just how slow these drivers are around this racetrack. Top speed they really get up to going into a corner is 90 miles per hour. Pretty much all these drivers, they're going to be stepping into some late models in anywhere from about 10 to 15 minutes, which we know that those type of cars have a lot more speed and actually a lot more drivability, it seems, as well. So I almost have to wonder if we're seeing these street stocks enter into the corner at a measly 90 miles per hour and slide up into the wall. I mean, how much are these drivers going to have their hands full when they get into those late model cars?
I've never actually driven the late models, but they look fun. I've always kind of wanted to give it a shot. I enjoy the dirt racing, so I'm not really sure, though, on the differences, but from what I've seen in the late models, they just look like they can take the speeds a bit better, like entering in 110 miles an hour even compared to these at 90. It seems like they just kind of turn a bit better, like the right rear is a little more hung out on them and just kind of make it swing around the track better than the street stocks are.
10 laps to go was just taken by Ryan Stillwell as we're looking at the battle for 7th. Brian Bordeaux and Scott Mungsgaard, the closest battle we've got on track right now. Possible battle brewing as well for the 3rd position. Tim Deschwart and Steve Robin. And for Deschwart, this is a position that he kind of has to try to hold on to and hold off Steve Robin, just based on the fact that unless something drastically changes here in these final 8 laps, it looks like Ryan Stillwell not only will take his first win of the season, but really close up that points battle for the championship.
Yeah, this is a perfect scenario if you're Ryan Stillwell. You're the guy that you're chasing for points is running in 3rd, possibly could lose 3rd even by the end of this race. So if you're Stillwell, you just got to try and keep the car out of the wall, keep it clean. You have over a second and a half, and Grant Wesley is just not running quick enough anymore to run him down in time at all. The lap times have kind of swung back towards Stillwell's favor for sure, and so really you're just trying to take maximum points that you can get right now. He's doing just that.
Still, all in all, a great effort here by Tim Deschwart, who had to start this main event all the way back in the 9th position. I think Grant Wesley started from 5th, and Ryan Stillwell, of course, was able to start from the outside of the front row in 2nd place. Got out to the lead very quickly and never looked back. He has led the most laps here today, but hoping that he can lead the most important one. He's 5 laps away from doing that.
Yeah, the battle for 3rd's really heating up here with Deschwart and Robbins. Robbins just shot low in turn 1.
Find any grip down there. Doesn't really look like it. Looked much slower through the corner of 1 and 2. Deschwart on that outside line, and I think that's what Steve Robbins realizing right now is, he wants to make this pass. He's only 20 points out of the points lead, so this pass could be very important for him as well further on down the road, but at the same time, he's being forced to go down to a line that he might not necessarily want because of the fact that 49 is in the preferred line.
But just like that, 49 actually decided to take the low line for 3 and 4 and kind of switch it up, but it's actually going to work out. He didn't lose too much ground at all.
I almost wonder if he was forced to do that because he brushed the wall there coming off of turn 2. Car was kind of directed down there, and he figured, all right, I guess I'm pointed this way. Might as well take that line.
Yeah, it's actually just right there. Robbins gets the wall up too. They're leaving it all out there right now. There's only coming to 2 laps to go, so he's really trying to get back to Deschwart and make a run for that 3rd position.
Brian Hogue, the pole sitter, back there in 5th place, looking to get only his 2nd top 5 of the season. As up here at the front, you can visibly see the gap. It's less than a second, but you said it. 2 to go, and now the white flag this time, unless Ryan Stillwell makes a major mistake, or Grant Wesley has four amazing corners. Ryan Stillwell is going to be en route to his first win of the season. Stillwell coming into this race has had 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s in his 5 starts, but not a trip to victory lane. Look at Wesley drive it really deep through the corner. Can he get there? Oh, he was close.
He tried everything he could right there. That's exactly what you need to do on the last lap to try and get a win, but he made up 3 4 tenths that last lap with that move. So another lap or two, I think he maybe could have had him. Deschwart held on for P3 over Robbins. Robbins tried much of the same and wasn't able to quite close that gap. And Ryan Hogue, who started the race from pole, gets 5th position.
And you have to wonder if Wesley had at least been able to get up there and make a little bit of contact with the 9. Would that have been a different story off of turn 4? Or do you think that outside line with Stillwell still would have prevailed?
I think the outside line is still just a little too strong to try and do that. Even with the contact, if anything, you're just gonna get his car a little bit more sideways, and he'll just use the power to keep it going off the corner while you're kind of heading straight towards a wall. So it's hard to say, though. Obviously, contact can work in funny ways when it comes to racing, and who knows? But still well held on, and Wesley was almost able to get to him on that last lap.
And with only 8 points separating Stillwell from points leader Tim Deschwart, be interesting to see how this win and Deschwart's third place finish, how that stacks up into who's going to be the points leader heading into next week at Lanier. You look here at your finishing results. We had 10 of our 11 drivers all finish on the lead lap. Michael Massey, of course, was the only driver that finished one lap down, and only one caution there in that 50 lap event. So, crazy racing early on. Obviously, it got spread out during the middle portion towards the end, but these drivers obviously feel very comfortable at Eldora based on what we saw in the early stages. We'll have to see if that translates over to the late model race in just a few minutes.
Yeah, that one caution early on, it really calmed down afterwards, and had a good run to the checkered flag from there, and saw some still good racing. So overall, not too bad of a first race.
See if we can get some of our top 3 finishers, get their opinions of tonight's race here at Eldora. And let's start with the guy that came into this race as the points leader, Tim Deschwart. Hey, Tim, it's Bronson and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, my goodness. I mean, first I got to talk about that first 9 laps before that caution came out, because we saw you guys, you're only 11 car field, but we saw 3 groups of 3 wide racing going into these corners, and you had to work your way up to the 3rd position from 9th place. How tough was it working your way through the field with that mayhem all around you?
Yeah, with that many three wide situations, it's pretty crazy. There's a lot of good drivers in here, and some of these guys are getting really fast. So yeah, it was a challenge. You just got to go where they're not and hope it sticks.
Now, we alluded to the fact that the points lead between yourself and Ryan Stillwell coming to this race was a meager 8 points. Stillwell looked like he was en route to winning this race. You had Robbins on your back bumper trying to take 3rd place. How important was it for you to keep that 073 in your rearview mirror and get this podium?
Every point counts, so every position counts for that. And he was giving it all he had. So I had to just try to keep my line, and hopefully the bottom didn't come in good enough for him to get around me.
Kind of saw you with you struggled a bit in your heat race, and you ended up lining up 9th position, but you came away 3rd. Was it just the track conditions didn't suit you, or just how much did it really change throughout the night? Because starting 9th and finishing 3rd after not really looking like you had the pace, but at one point you were going for the lead or 2nd position. So I assume it just went through a lot of changes in your favor.
Yeah, I had a good starting spot in my heat race, and the track was a little bit different. Had a little contact in the heat too, so that put me back a couple of positions, and I just couldn't make it up in time.
Well, obviously, Tim, this is not the first race, or not the only race you guys are running here tonight. You guys are going to be climbing into the late models. How much different do you think it's going to be with the late model cars as opposed to what you just experienced in street stocks?
I think the track's going to end up being about the same, so it's just going to be who can drive on the slick and who can't.
Well, 3rd place run for you here tonight, Tim. We'll see if it's going to be enough for you to at least preserve your points lead going into Lanier next week. But going to let you do some shout outs now.
I'd like to give a shout out to all of RTG, Grant Wesley, Brian Orto, Brian Hogue, Terry Bowman. They all do a good job, and also to you guys for putting on this broadcast. It's pretty cool to be able to watch.
That's Tim Deschwart, brings home third place here tonight in the Street Stocks race. We look forward to seeing what you can do in the late models in just a few minutes.
Okay, thanks, guys.
It's kind of interesting too because coming into this race, it was Stillwell trying to reel in Deschwart. Well, when we get to the late models, it's actually going to be roles reversed. Ryan Stillwell with a 6-point lead over Timothy Deschwart. We'll get to Ryan Stillwell in a moment. Let's go down and get our second place finisher, Grant Wesley. Hey, Grant, it's Bronson and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network Studios. You got us?
Hey guys.
Well, man, I mean, we saw a lot of drivers have to work their way from midway point up into the front of the field, and you were one of those drivers rolling off from 5th place. You finished in 2nd place, but man, talk about that opening couple of laps because you guys were really mixing it up, door banging, 3 wide, several rows deep. I mean, at any point there, were you thinking you guys were going to wreck, or were you surprised it took you until lap 9 to have that first caution?
This is a really good group of guys. I'm not surprised we went that long. It started mid pack and we did a 10% track state reset. Got the water truck out and the track was really good. It was racy at first, and as you alluded to, we were 3-4 wide during the start. And after the first couple laps, we kind of got strung out just a little bit, but then it got to about around lap 9, basically had one guy kind of bobble and have to get out of the gas, and basically then the next guy gets on his rear quarter and the next guy has to check up for him, and then it's just a chain reaction thing. Sometimes you just can't prevent that kind of stuff, but it was pretty intense racing tonight for sure.
Let's talk about that final lap there. I mean, I was shocked you were able to close up the gap that you did through 3 and 4, almost got to the back bumper. If you'd been able to at least get alongside, was there anything you think you would have been able to do to kind of shift the momentum in your favor off turn 4 to get him at the line?
I just needed a couple more laps there. I think Ryan, he may have got a little damage there to the rear of his car, which was really easy. I know Michael Massey, he had that happen to him, and that's just a result of running so close to the wall. And sometimes iRacing will kind of damage your rear end and skew it, and then it's just hard to drive. So I'm not sure. I think that may have happened to Ryan. So he was kind of a sitting duck there, and I was doing everything I could. And the harder I drove, I tapped the wall a little bit. And I'm like, man, I hope I don't tear the rear end out of this thing again. And Ryan drove a good race. That's he built up that big lead, and it's no accident that he won. He did a good job.
Yeah, you for sure threw it all, kind of all at him in that last lap. But you guys are getting ready to go over to the late models here, and what's the difference really between the street stocks and the late model at a track like Eldora? It's a pretty quick track usually, and I haven't actually done the late models, so I'm not too sure on myself. So what are you guys looking for differences here?
The street stocks, they're kind of relatively slow and sluggish. You turn the wheel and it takes a while for it to react. It rolls over on that right front and then it'll turn into the corner. With the late model, it steers with the rear end, so you're steering with the gas pedal as much as you are the wheel, and it reacts lightning fast, especially the pro late models. Now we moved up to the pro from the limiteds. That's new to a lot of these guys, and yeah, they react really fast, and you're going to see basically a lot more maneuvering with those cars. You can dime in the corner a lot easier with them and get that run down the hill coming off, and see a lot of slide jobs.
Well, Grant, obviously, the last time that we did broadcasting here for this league, we saw you go to victory lane in the late model series race at Kokomo. So hopefully we'll be able to see you double down here at Eldora. But to congrats on the second place run here in the street stocks, and we're gonna let you do some shout outs now.
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to thank the owners here at RTG, David Cannon, Terry Bauman, and Sean Prime. My fellow admins for tonight, Brian Hogue and Brian Ordo. I'd like to thank you guys for the broadcast. My teammates at XFM, my girlfriend Brittany, and I believe my mom and dad's watching, so a big shout out to them.
That's Grant Wesley. He finished his second place here tonight at Eldora in the street stocks. Hopefully he can finish one position better in just a few moments as these drivers will be climbing into their late models. Congrats on a great run, Grant, and good luck in the late model race.
Thanks, Seth.
And let's go down to victory lane and let's get Ryan Stillwell, his first win of the season here for the RTG Dirt Street Stock Series. Ryan, it's Bronson and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, man, I mean, we saw a lot of drivers racing hard here tonight. You had maybe, well, I wouldn't say the easiest job, but you definitely had a much more quieter race, if you will, there out in front, leading most of this race, but got really close down there at the end. What were some of the things you were experiencing with that race car the longer the run went on in this race?
Yeah, I've I was running pretty good and running a really solid line and pulling away, and then I caught up to Massey, one of the lap cars, and I had a really good run through 1 and 2, and saw my chance to get him off the corner and get by him and not lose any time. And I throttled up a little too hard, stuck the right rear out, hit the wall hard, and it skewed the rear end a little. And from then on, it was literally a wheel fest from there, and just hoping and praying there was enough time.
Well, I mean, we talked about the fact that coming into tonight's race, 5 different drivers had gone to victory lane, and you make it now 6 for 6. But also, more importantly, you came into this race only 8 points behind Deschwart for that points lead. So, how important was it for you to go to victory lane to carry this momentum in your attempt to try and take the points lead over?
I mean, I'm one of those guys. Whenever I run in real life, I don't even look at points. Points don't matter to me. Focus on the race ahead. Focus on the win, and the points will come. The championship will settle itself wherever it settles. The more you think about it, the more it gets in your head, the more it affects you. So I didn't even know what the points were coming in. I didn't even know I was second. I figured I was third or fourth. But we've had a lot of good runs this season and just not been able to capitalize. So I really just wanted to finally put it in victory lane. I've been running really good races and throwing them away, or just having bad luck towards the end.
Yeah, like you're saying, you don't look towards the championship or points, and I get that. That's a common mentality, but you are coming up for the points. You made up points on Timothy, who was the leader, and now we're switching over to the pro lates. As I guess, yeah, you guys don't run the limiteds anymore, the pro late models, and with Eldora and all that stuff. What are you kind of looking for differences here? As I kind of asked the same question to the other two podium finishers here, but it's kind of interesting the answer. So what is your differences that you're seeking kind of for the late models at a track like Eldora?
So the late model is a totally different animal. I mean, we were pretty much running wide open, maybe with a couple of burps of throttle and a street stock. But late models, you're going to be into the corner, off the gas. It's going to be a lot of throttle movement, control, and making sure the right front stays down and not letting the car get tight off the corner. And I'll just say it now, whoever doesn't damage the right side of their car and mess up that right spoiler will probably take home the victory, because that's going to be key tonight, because the second you hurt that spoiler, you lose about 2/10.
Well, Ryan, with us switching gears over here to the late models, you come into this one 2 wins so far this season. You're coming in as the points leader and everything as well. You pick up the win here in the street stocks. We'll hopefully be able to see you sweep here tonight at Eldora in the late models. We wish you luck with that, but we're gonna let you do some shout outs now.
I'd like to shout out my sponsors, BW Sports One and Checkers and Wreckers. They've been with me for a long time, and they're great guys. They do a lot for me, and they do a lot for iRacing itself too, which all you broadcasters do. I'd like to thank RTG Gaming for putting on the room and everything, and you guys coming out to broadcast. You guys do a great job as always, and that's pretty much it.
That's Ryan Stillwell, celebrates in victory lane here tonight for the street stocks race. We'll see if he can do it again here for the late models in just a few moments. Good luck tonight in the late model race there, Ryan.
Thanks, sir.
And as we're getting everything swapped over here for what's going to be yet another 50-lap event here for the late model cars. We already talked about the fact the point situation coming to this one. Ryan Stillwell 6 points up on Timothy Deschwart, but from what we were hearing there, Bronson, the question you were asking them, it sounds like everybody here for these drivers, it's don't tear up the equipment, because obviously these late model cars are a lot more delicate than the street stocks we just saw moments ago.
Yeah, the common thing that I heard was the throttle control. You can actually work it a bit more and move the cars around. And Ryan was saying, watch that the right side of that spoiler and make sure you don't damage it. As I'm actually already jumped in, and they're 4 seconds a lap quicker, Seth. So I definitely see what Ryan means. You don't want to damage that, because these cars are quite a bit quicker than those street stocks.
All right, so we saw a number of drivers in the street stock race go right up there against the wall with what we've heard of not damaging that right side. Is that outside line kind of an out of bounds zones for these drivers now?
I think it's a risk versus reward, much like real racing now with, maybe that's where the speed is, but you miss the line a little bit and you get the wall, you kind of just ruined your night a little bit. So it's there's a lot of risk to it, but I'm sure there's probably a lot of speed to be gained if you can get it just right.
We'll see who's going to be willing to take that risk up there on the top side as we are moments away from these drivers getting set for qualifying heats for another 50-lapper here tonight for the RTG Late Model Series. We will be right back here as these drivers have about 10 more minutes of practice before they take to the track and begin their heats. So we will be stepping aside and we will be back momentarily for the drop of the green flag to start off the heats and the main event for race number 6 of the RTG Dirt Late Model Series. And we welcome you everybody here to race number 6 of the season for the RTG Dirt Late Model Series, as these drivers just took to Eldora Speedway for 50 laps in the street stocks. They're getting ready to do it here with the late model cars, but we're getting ready to set the starting lineup for this one, as Michael Massey will start on point for this first heat alongside of Terry Bauman. Scott Schroyer, a new driver that didn't take part in the street stock race, is going to start third alongside of Brian Hogue. Steve Robbins and Tim Deschwart, second in points, 6 points out of the points lead, will be rolling off in the final spot of this heat. 12 drivers scheduled to take the green flag. All 12 drivers will make the main event.
Yeah, interesting to note, Seth, is, you know, we just did street stocks, and these cars are 4 seconds a lap quicker. And you just wonder if that's going to cause more chaos or just more moves or what, but I guess we'll find out as Heat 1's about to go green.
And we saw as well in the 2 previous heats for the street stocks, drivers willing to go up and door bang each other. Wonder how much room they'll give each other here in these heats. Will they be too afraid to maybe tear up their equipment early on? As look at the nearly 45 degrees through the corners. We were told earlier on, these drivers, it's all about throttle control for them if they're going to make these corners cleanly.
Yeah, you can see going to turn 3, all the puffs of smoke from them getting off the gas. That's not something we saw with the street stocks, as this 69 car of Terry Bauman got the wall in turn 1 a little bit. And yeah, you can already see how much quicker these cars are. A little bit more lines for them. They're not quite running the top of the track like they were for the street stocks in 3 and 4, but 1 and 2, they're still very high up on the track.
See on the back of these race cars that spoiler that sticks up in the air, and our winner from the street stocks race, Ryan Stillwell, who we will see in this second upcoming heat, said whoever's got that spoiler still on the back of their car is probably going to be the one that wins this race here tonight, as Massey hard up into the wall there.
Yeah, Massey got the wall. Scott Schroyer tried to take advantage of it, slid down in front of him actually, and almost got turned around, but somehow held onto it and held the lead. As now, who is that? Steve Robbins. Yeah, Robbins moved into second, going after him.
He's going to ride the wall there going into turn 1, as they're going to be battling for second place. Tim Deschwart, who had to start dead last in this heat, trying to work his way up to second, almost got into the side of Steve Robbins. And Scott Schroyer, we mentioned that there were only 11 drivers in the street stock race, 12 here in the late model race. Schroyer is the driver that is the new one here, and he was fastest in practice, so we'll have to see if he's going to be able to maybe play some spoiler here tonight.
Yeah, he's looking pretty strong so far, but Robbins is not letting him go, as throws it down the inside. He's a little bit too sideways, but is able to hold side by side for now. Nope, does get cleared. But you can just see already Scott Schroyer definitely showing that he is a threat for tonight's race.
Robbins going to have 2 more shots here at Schroyer as he drives it deep into 1, but Schroyer through the center of the corner, back to the throttle, pulls away, and easily through 3 and 4 is going to come to the checkered flag, take this heat, and subsequently start on the pole for the main event. Is good battle there at the line between Robbins and Deschwart. Robbins will get it, so he'll start third. Deschwart will start 5th.
Yeah, there were definitely some close racing, some close battles there, but nothing like the street stocks where they were actually beating and banging off each other through the corners. You could definitely see them giving each other a lot more room, as I think everyone realizes these cars are a lot more fragile than what we just saw.
And it was interesting too because we didn't see as many drivers run way down there on the bottom of the racetrack like we did in the first heat for the street stocks. Maybe because of, as you alluded to, the fact that these drivers running much faster lap times, carrying so much more speed into the corners, they'd have to back their pace way down in order to be able to run that inside line.
Yeah, you'd really have to kind of sacrifice entry or exit to do it, and I just don't think it's worth doing it, to say the least. It's just one of those things where you're just going to lose so much speed and you're not going to gain really anything. Even if you can maybe draw next to someone, they're going to have such a run off the top that it won't really matter. And that'll be interesting to see if the track changes throughout the night, as the street stocks, they kind of used every lane up until the top side was the only one left. But if these guys all just run middle to top side, you might actually see the low line being used and become the quickest of the lines just because it's so fresh.
Yeah, and that might be what they're going to exactly have to do, because to your point, the track's kind of rubbered in a little bit there, the 8 laps that were run for the first heat race, and these drivers here running the exact same track conditions that the Heat 1 finished on. So with all of them running that middle to outside line, not sure how much grip's going to be up there for Grant Wesley, who starts on the point for this heat alongside of Scott Monksgard, Brian Ordo, and Sean Kerrigan row 2, Patrick Spangler, and our winner from the Street Stocks race, Ryan Stillwell, going to be rolling off from the 6th position. Kind of interesting that the two drivers that are battling for the points lead, both having to start shotgun on their respective heats.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they run throughout the race, starting last here, as you already saw Timothy get third in his heat. See where Ryan can finish in this one, as Grant Wesley gets a good start actually. So does the 71 of Brian Ordo.
Drove it deep there into turn 1, then let it slide up the corner. Ordo trying to clear for that second position. It looks like he is going to get the spot from Monksgard, as Grant Wesley, who is about, I think it was half a second off the back bumper of Ryan Stillwell for the Street Stocks race. We'll see what he's going to be able to do here, because this could be a very important heat for whoever wins it, just based on the fact that we go back to the Street Stock race, Ryan Stillwell, he won the second heat start on the outside of the front row, and that's what subsequently ended up getting him the race lead and pretty much the race win.
Yeah, Scott Munskar just got the wall pretty good off of turn 4 and allowed Stillwell to move right into that third position. So he's working his way up there. He's got to make up some ground in only about 5 laps left to do it, to get to the top 2 and improve his starting spot. But for Grant Wesley, he was really quick at the end of that, at the street stock race, and if he had a better starting spot, who knows what he could have actually done. So this could be huge for the race coming up.
Brian Ordo in the second position is third in the points coming to this one, 26 points out. Right now it's kind of a 2-horse race for this points lead between Ryan Stillwell and Timothy Deschwart, as Patrick Spangler gets the wall back there as well. Grant Wesley running a much higher line there through the corners than Brian Ordo is, and that's what's helping him to be able to open up a second gap.
Yeah, Stillwell's running that really high line as well, and you can see him closing in on Ordo every turn that they do. They're just going to shoot low in 3 and 4. And he's going to take that spot away with not much of a fight.
Oh, no! They saved it? Question mark? They did.
He saved it.
Wow.
Yeah, he saved that car. Where's 4th? 4th and 5th are in pit road. What happened to Munskard and Sprangler?
I'm not sure, but you're right. They are both in the pit road, and I'm not certain if they got involved in a wreck and no caution came out, or if they just came to pit road by choice. But white flag has been displayed over the hood, the 88 of Grant Wesley, so he's going to come out of turn 4. He'll be starting on the outside of the front row for the main event, followed by Ordo, Stillwell, and Kerrigan. But yeah, I'm not sure what happened to the 44 and the 10. They will finish 5th and 6th respectively, and be starting in 10th and 12th for the main event. But not sure what happened to either one of them.
Yeah, I went back and watched it. At the start of lap 6, it looks like Patrick got off of turn 4 and bounced off the wall a little bit and took out the 44 of Munskard, and they both just got the inside wall and just retired it to pit lane. Surprised there wasn't a yellow for that, as there was the car of Kerrigan coming by, and it didn't throw a yellow for him at all. So that's interesting to say the least. But Yeah, they were battling for 4th and ended up 5th and 6th instead.
Well, I mean, the good news, at least for them, is yes, they ended up wrecked in their heat, but they're still going to be able to take part here in the main event. All 12 drivers that took part in those 2 heats are going to be taking part in this 50-lapper. And I guess like the couple of top stories coming into this one, obviously we alluded to it at the end of the street stock race, the fact that now the roles are reversed. It was Timothy Deschwart leading Ryan Stillwell in the street stock standings. Now it's Stillwell over Deschwart, 6 points here in the late models. Stillwell's got a win this season. That was a couple, or actually 2 wins, I should say. That was races 3 and 4 at Charlotte Dirt and Williams Grove. But Timothy Deschwart comes in the defending winner at Knoxville. And so 2 wins for Stillwell, 1 win for Deschwart, and you've also got a former winner this season of Grant Wesley. So good commissioning with these 3, but you've also got Scott Schroyer, who was really fast in practice, really fast in his heat.
Yeah, it's definitely, they're looking pretty quick, they're looking pretty racy as, you know, we're going into this main race here, and you're going to see Deschwart and Stillwell line up side by side, so the points battle's definitely on for those 2.
Scott Schroyer's 2nd start of the season, where he finished 5th back at Knoxville, leading 10 laps of that 51-lap main event. So we'll see what he's going to be able to do here, is up into the wall there while battling with Michael Massey. And this is going to be interesting as well in the fact that we saw in the street stocks race, first 9 laps, 3 wide racing all the way through the field. How anxious are we going to see these drivers to attempt moves like that, especially early on in this race?
You know, I'm not sure. I didn't think it would be like that for the street stock race at all, Seth. So, I guess it really depends on how confident they're feeling in the track grip and their cars and themselves, really. But I think these cars being a little bit longer like they are and just a little bit quicker, I think it's a little bit harder to run 2-3 wide like that without some more issues quicker on. But who knows? They could be just fine.
We saw how Ryan Stillwell in the street stock race, how when he got up into the wall, how much time he was losing to Grant Wesley. It'll be interesting to watch if we manage to go into a long green flag run here in the late model race. If someone goes up there and clobbers the wall as one of our front runners, just how quickly they are going to start fading off the pace and getting reeled in by their competition. As right now, fastest car on track is the 49 of Timothy Deschwart, who is coming into this race trying to see if he can take the points lead away from Ryan Stillwell. And how interesting would it be if Stillwell has indeed taken the points lead from Deschwart in the street stock standings, for Deschwart to follow it up just a mere half hour later, taking the points lead away from Stillwell in the late model standings?
Yeah, that would definitely be a bit on the ironic side, I'd say. And, you know, I think it just shows how good those 2 have been all season across both of the dirt series, the street stocks and the late models, and just how good they've been compared to everyone else, really.
Yeah, they're the only 2 that are really battling for either championship currently, unless somebody is able to mount a major charge. I mean, this is only the 6th race of the season for both respective series, 16 races in total, so there's still plenty of time. If somebody can run a string of 3, maybe 4 wins in a row together, they can get themselves up in the conversation as well. But currently it is looking like it is a battle between the 49 and the 9 for both respective championships, as we're about almost halfway through each one of the seasons.
Yeah, there's still lots of season left, lots of racing left for sure. And, you know, if they keep running how they do, I'm sure the points lead will switch back and forth a lot, all the way until the end.
We only saw 1 caution, and that was an early caution in the street stock race. We'll have to see if the yellow flag rears its ugly head here in this one. Obviously, a lot of different fundamentals that are between the late miles and the street stocks, the speed they carry into the corner, the vulnerability, really, of the race car itself, as we've seen a number of drivers, even here in practice, having difficulty with getting up into that outside wall, and it's not going to get any easier when they get into race conditions.
Yeah, these cars are so much quicker, so much more fragile than what we just saw 30 minutes ago, even from the street stocks. So, like Ryan Stillwell said at the end of the street stock race, it might really be who can take care of the car the best and keep it all together to get to the end of that to get to the end of the race.
got Schroyer, who won the first heat race, and Grant Wesley, who won the second heat race. They are going to be your front row here for the main event, followed by Steve Robbins and Brian Ordo in row 2, Timothy Deschwart and Ryan Stillwell, the two guys battling for the points lead. They are side by side in row 3. Michael Massey, Sean Kerrigan, row 4, top 10 completed by Brian Hogue and Patrick Spangler. Then it will be Terry Bauman and Scott Monksgaard that will make up the 6th and final row for this one. We saw in the street stock race, Bronson, the fact that Ryan Stillwell, when he was on the outside of the front row, that outside line gained him the advantage early. Can Grant Wesley be able to do that here in the late model cars, or based on what we've heard that you don't want to hit that outside wall, is he going to be a little bit more ginger in how he approaches that high line in 1 and 2?
Yeah, it's hard to say, but you're not starting on the front row. You're starting in the middle of the pack. I think you got to be a little bit more careful regardless.
50 laps of racing here for these drivers in this one, as well as also noticing that the sun is setting a little bit here behind the hills. Maybe a little bit cooler track conditions for the late model drivers than it was in the street stock race. So we'll see if maybe a little bit of a cooler track will lead to more moves on that inside line and more passes on the inside line here for these drivers.
Yeah, I have no idea how temperature affects the dirt tracks, so I guess we'll just have to see if it makes one line better than the other, or maybe it'll cool down the top and make it a little bit stronger up there even. Who knows? I certainly don't. But I guess we'll find out for the next 50 laps.
Got Schroyer making only his 2nd start of the season, and Grant Wesley, who is making his 3rd start of the season, will lead the field down. Green flags in the air. 50 laps of racing await us at Eldora.
Clean getaway. No one's getting too wild with moves. Oh, Stillwell already knocks the wall down. Be interested to see if that did any damage, because he got the wall pretty good coming off the 2, but besides that, everyone kept it pretty clean throughout the field, as I do see damage on that rear spoiler of Stillwell's car.
And we were almost 3 wide there for a brief moment with, I believe that was Grant Wesley, Steve Robbins, and Tim Deschwart. Another car may have gotten up there and brushed the wall. I think that was Brian Ordo in the 71 as the battle for the lead. Well, it was a battle out of 4. Now Wesley's going to have to give it up.
Yeah, you can have the top 4 battling, and then 5th through 10th battling, and then 2 cars kind of by themselves for 11th and 12th. There's a battle for 2nd, pretty much contact on entry to 3. But no damage done to either of those cars for Wesley or Robbins, but they are going after it.
Yeah, obviously we've been told that if they go up there and get the wall, a lot of damage is going to be sustained. Wonder how much damage there is when cars are leaning on each other through the corner, and some more contact there. That sent Wesley nearly straight up into the wall.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of damage to the rear spoiler now. Same with Robbins' car, where he didn't get into him. So far, Stillwell's tips of keeping the damage away from that spoiler has not really gone to many of these drivers.
Tim Deschwart, he's going to try and take the 2nd position away from Steve Robbins. Robbins battles back on the top side. Looks like Deschwart maybe get the spot here coming out of turn 3. He will, and now he sets his sights on race leader Scott Schroyer.
Yeah, as you can see there, Robbins in the wall once again. Actually going to lose 2, almost 3 spots. Stillwell almost lost that spot, but Michael Massey's moved up through the field, kept the car clean so far, and he's up to 3rd.
Take a look at the visibility of the 9 of Ryan Stillwell right now, currently in the 6th position. Looking here at this battle up ahead between Grant Wesley and Michael Massey. And yeah, you got to think that Michael Massey looking for a little bit of redemption here after he was running up in the 2nd position in the street stock race, got up hard into the wall and pretty much had to limp that car home to a dead last finish.
Well, it was the 44 of Monksgaard and the 14 of Brian Hogue got together in 3 and 4. Almost went around. They kept it straight, as now there's contact with Stillwell and Robbins up there for what is 5th position. Stillwell, even with the damage, is not giving up easily.
Yeah, Robbins was in a tough situation there. He was in the middle of 3 wide with Stillwell on the bottom and Wesley on the top side. And as you alluded to, the contact. Oh, caution! We got a caution out. Brian Hogan, the 14, has gone around. Looks like that's out of turn 2.
I think he got a little bit of help here. Oh, he got a little too deep into turn 1. Got into the side of Brian Ordo, and then Ordo came off the wall and just kind of finished him off a little bit.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Brian Hogue was actually collected up in the first caution in the street stock race. So
He
not
was,
having,
yes.
yeah, not having the best of luck here in terms of not causing yellows. And there you see it. Just a slight little bit of contact. The good news, I guess, for Brian Hogue, yes, he loses out on a lot of positions on track, but not really a whole lot of impact to the front nose of that race car. So he should be okay to continue.
Yeah, the nose doesn't look too bad. The rear spoiler looks quite a bit bent up. But honestly, I took a quick look through the field. Everyone's got damage on their spoiler already. So at this point, I don't really think it matters of who has the cleanest spoiler at the end of the race. I think it's just straight whoever can go fastest with it.
Waiting for that pace car to give us the 1 to green when we'll get ready to go back racing. And that caution, I do believe, came out on lap number 9. So it was either one lap later or maybe the exact same lap that the only caution we had in the street stock race came out, right in the same vicinity. And then we went clean and green the rest of the way in the street stock race. So we'll see if we're going to follow that same program here for the late model cars. And just before we go green, Terry Bauman back here running a special tribute scheme. He was running as well in the street stock race, sporting the pink here for breast cancer awareness. And of course, us here at Flatout Racing Network as well, sporting the pink on our ticker. We are running a fundraiser here for Breast Cancer Foundation. If you'd like to head on over and donate, link to our fundraiser is in the description, and it'll be running through the entire month of October as we go back green.
Yeah, the pink cars that come out for October is always a really cool thing to see. It's really cool that FRN got on board and fundraiser and such for it. It's always nice to see people doing what they can to help out groups that always could use a little bit of extra help with it. And that's definitely one of those fun cases where it's always cool to see. The pink on track 2 is always unique, but we're back racing, and Scott Schroyer is under pressure from Timothy Deschwart.
Absolutely is, as we got 4 cars battling for 3rd place behind them. I thought Grant Wesley was going to hook the 45 of Michael Massey going into that corner, but Deschwart trying to run about a half group lower than Scott Schroyer. So what he's gaining on entry, he's losing a little bit on exit as Massey gets the wall pretty good there at the start-finish line.
Yeah, I think what Deschwart is trying to do is maybe work in the bottom line a little bit to just kind of have something to go to later if he can get to him. But like he said,
Stillwell gonna go around, and he's gonna hit that wall pretty good, I think.
I think he got the inside wall pretty good. There was no yellow as he did keep it straight, but he definitely did get that inside wall.
Contact between himself and Michael Massey in a battle for 3rd place, and Grant Wesley nearly went around as well, as we're almost 3 wide coming off of turn 4. That's Patrick Spangler, Steve Robbins that were on the inside of Wesley.
Yeah, these guys are going after it right now. Massey was able to get away from that battle going on behind them, but it is definitely a battle.
Brian Hogue, who was involved in our only caution up to this point, is right now back in the 9th position. I believe the 14 was able to utilize a faster pair. I think these drivers have one faster pair at their disposal. Not many drivers really wanting to take that under caution, however, unless they've gotten a lot of damage, just based on the fact they don't want to give up all those spots on the track.
Yeah, track position seems so important. And just not having a guy running your line in front of you is pretty big. It can almost overcome any damage really done to the car. As really Brian Hogue restarted 12th and he's only up to 9th, and he's not really making too much inroads right now.
And of course, with Ryan Stillwell having that moment there off of turn 4 and dropping all the way back to the 10th position, you can see him just back there behind this battle for 8th between Brian Hogue and Scott Monksgaard. The bad news for Ryan Stillwell with that caution not coming out, Tim Deschwart, who's trying to take the points lead away from him, is running solidly up in the 2nd position.
Yeah, interesting though for Stillwell. Looking at the lap times, he is quicker on these the next 2 cars in front of him at least, maybe even the next 2 to 3 cars. So he's not quite out of it, even with how much damage he did get from that. The left side actually doesn't look too bad, so he got away with a pretty good hit on the inside wall, and he still has some speed, so we can still claw back some points.
As we mentioned, the fact that we went green to the checkered flag after our only caution in the street stock race, so if we're following the same type of a program here for the late models, if we go green to the end, the big question mark now for Ryan Stillwell is how many positions can he pick up before we get to the checkered flag. He's already going to work here on Brian Ordo for the 9th position. He's got about 4 more cars up there, so if he keeps this pace up, we could see the 9 back up in the top 5 maybe in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, he's pushing it pretty hard right now, but he's flying. He's trying to keep it over the wall, but you can see he's just working the throttle and steering with that car, going for any spots he can. As here he goes around Monksguard now for 8th position, gets that move done pretty aggressively, slides up right on exit.
Well, yeah, talk about the risk versus reward. Yes, you get the chance of picking up the spot, but you also run the risk that Monksguard's not going to be able to check up, and he's going to spin you around when the contact's made between his front bumper and your rear bumper. Oh, wow, Stillwell really blew that corner, rode the wall for about 3/4 of that turn. Yeah,
he's really pushing. I think he's just trying to make up for anything that he lost, but the battle right now that I'm watching, it's a battle for 5th and 6th with Patrick Spangler and Steve Robbins. They've been swapping back and forth for a good couple laps here, and the battle up ahead for 3rd with Massey and Wesley is heating up.
Trying to cross Spangler back over. Boy, Spangler has a lot of difficulty off turn 4. That's the 2nd time in a row he's gotten up into the wall. The time before that, he almost was riding the wall as Massey to the inside of Wesley for 3rd position. Wesley tries to get back to the throttle and get the run on the top side. This is all going on about 8/10 behind Timothy Deschwart, who's in 2nd, who also is running about 8/10 behind race leader Scott Schroyer.
Yeah, that battle for 3rd is still going on, but the battle for 5th now has a 3rd member of it. Brian Hogue has finally made up some ground. He's caught those two drivers ahead of him, and he's trying to take them 3 wide right now on the bottom of the racetrack.
I think we're starting to see what Ryan Still was telling us about. If you make too much contact with the back end of that car, it's just going to affect you for the remainder of the run. Patrick Spangler continuing to struggle in that 10 machine as Stillwell. Ooh, that's a close call there.
And Stillwell got by both of them that lap. That was crazy. He just slid up in front, made himself clear, and now Stillwell's going after Hogue, even with Hogue having way less damage.
Yeah, Stillwell is using up every bit of his race card. Well, I think he needs to send the 10 car a Christmas card or something there, because he just saved his bacon.
Yeah, he was going around if that car was not below him, but what a save, honestly, and not too much more damage is done to it. This is a battle going on, and here comes Monksguard to join it now as well.
If we're going to see our second caution, it's going to be in this area for sure. That's 5th through 9th. We can throw a blanket over all of them.
Yeah, Stillwell still is not giving up either. He is still pushing it on that high side. You can see when he goes in, he has those wheels almost 90 degrees to the right, just trying to get that car to turn, and he gets in the wall a little bit there again, but he gets clear of him. Now he's going after Hogue again.
You see there, Spangler, I think he's had enough of the outside wall. He's running way down there on the track. Stillwell way down there, trying to straddle the inside wall. Hogue looks to cross him over. Oh, got a spinner. Spangler is around in the back of the pack. That will bring out a caution.
Oh, that is such inconvenient timing for Brian Hogue as well. The driver, Spangler, spun around, and as we hit turn 1, Hogue missed turn 1 completely and was riding the catch fence.
And I think that was the 15 of Sean Kerrigan that almost clobbered the spinning machine off of turn 4. That was a close call there as well. And probably the one guy that didn't want to see this caution coming out was Scott Schroyer, because he was enjoying a pretty comfortable advantage between himself and the 49.
Yeah, it was almost a second gap between them, and to that point as well, Tim Deschwart also had over a second gap to Grant Wesley, and now that's all erased and gone, and it's a quick little shootout to the checkered flag here, Seth.
Got a couple of drivers that did elect to come down pit road and take on the fast repair. Spangler, who brought out this caution, is one of them. Also the 71 of Brian Ordo. Both those drivers were running close to the rear of the field anyway, so not a whole lot to lose here. And as you said, a shootout for these guys, so why not come down, have your car up to full capacity, because you might pick up a couple of spots here in the closing stages.
Yeah, you got the cleanest car now. The only issue I think with that is tires. I'm not sure how important it is for a track like this, but sometimes you want heat in the tires, and now you're gonna have to be kind of pushing extra hard to get them up to temperature just to be able to go at the rest of the field. Because that first caution, we saw Hogue pit, and it took him probably about 10 laps to get that car really working to make up spots.
Well, we saw Ryan Stillwell was fighting and clawing his way up through the field. He's going to restart in 5th, and he's going to have the top 4 right in front of him here with 16 laps to go as Schroyer gets us back underway. Little surprised he decided to take the inside line for this restart since we've seen that outside line be so good, but then again, maybe there's some grip that hasn't been utilized down that bottom line.
Yeah, he got away really good. He actually cleared Deschwart for that first spot. Grant Wesley's going after both of them as Stillwell's up to 4th.
Stillwell up on that top side along with Deschwart. You've got Schroyer and Wesley running the inside line. Wesley finished runner-up in the street stock race earlier on tonight, trying to see if he can get a victory here, 2nd of the season for the late models. As Schroyer, yeah, I think he didn't want to see that caution because he's got a lot of competition on his back door now.
Yeah, Deschwart is coming. He's there. Oh, he gets the wall really good down the back. Here comes Stillwell. Oh, man. If he didn't get the wall off of turn 2, we could have been almost 3 wide into turn 3. Regather it up. Here they go again. Look at the run off the top side of the track to the 49.
Oh,
they touch
contact
on the bottom. 3 wide into turn 3 for the lead.
Grant Wesley forcing his way on the inside of Scott Schroyer. Here comes Deschwart on the top side. They're going to be 3 wide coming to the line. Almost contact there. Schroyer nearly went around off the nose of Wesley, and there goes Schroyer. And they keep it straight.
No caution, no caution. Grant Wesley
Still
gets away with
going.
the lead. He has a huge lead in comparison to what we need to be seeing right now for these guys battling it out like this.
And all of a sudden, here comes everybody. It was about 4 cars up in this lead group, but here's Massey, here's Robbins, Monksgard. All these drivers now up here fighting for spots inside of the top 5.
And just like that as well, Stillwell is ahead of Timothy Deschwart. After all race long, he was running in 2nd position. Now he sees himself battling for 4th. As he's going to lose it into turn 1.
And we'll see if Stillwell can maybe make his way around Schroyer, and if he does, it's almost going to be roles reversed from the earlier tonight street stock event where it would be Stillwell trying to reel in Wesley. We may not have seen our last caution either that could change everything up here with less than 10 to go.
Yeah, that's very true. These guys are still going after it. I'm actually surprised that last incident was not a caution. He was dead 90 degrees on the track, but I think he got hit again to straighten him out before the sim could throw the yellow flag on him. And it worked out in Grant Wesley's favor as he got the lead and was able to just kind of pull away to a pretty safe distance.
But looking at the lap times, they're all running fairly equal. All 3 of your race leaders currently running around the 16.5s, mid-16.5s, so there's not much being gained or lost for either one of these 3 drivers. Stillwell, I'm almost wondering if maybe that rear end damage he's had for the entirety of this race, if that's really affecting him now in his ability to be able to reel in these top 2, as Schroyer pounded the wall there out of turn 4.
Yeah, that's going to give 2nd place to Stillwell pretty easily, actually. He just drove on by like he was playing
Caution.
yellow.
Monksgard in the 44, I believe, brought out this caution. And we will get back green. The question is how many laps will be left, and
He had some help.
Yeah, was there a little extracurricular activity there between the 71 and the 44, I wonder?
Yeah, he plowed right into him. There's some little bit of contact moving around, just a quick little spin. It threw the caution for it though, so coming down pit road as well is Monksgard and I believe Terry Bauman. So they'll take their fast repairs here and call it a day.
You see the little bit of help there to Monksgard. I think that might have been Brian Hogue that might have helped him around. And I'm still not really 100% certain what led to this contact here. The 71 of Ordo going around Monksgard and turning up into his left front quarter panel. But not only those drivers coming to pit road, but we saw the pole sitter, Scott Schroyer, land that outside wall off of turn 4. Apparently that really killed his race car. He's actually taken his car back to the garage area.
Yeah, I was just actually going to comment that he seems to be off the track. That's unfortunate. He he led the entire race up until that 2nd caution, and it all went downhill so quickly for him. But look at this top 2 now. Grant Wesley and Ryan Stillwell, reverse of the street stock race.
And right behind them, you got Michael Massey, who was en route maybe for a top 5 finish in the street stock race. Timothy Deschwart, who was able to battle back for a 3rd place run earlier on tonight. Steve Robbins up there as well. I mean, everybody still got some new life breathed into them, and we're going to be going back green with 5 laps to go. There's still a chance another caution could come out here.
Yeah, Grant Wesley took the top that time. I think that's a little bit safer than what Schroyer did that last restart, as he did clear away, and now Stillwell's going after him.
We've got some blocks being thrown back there around the 4th position as Michael Massey went way down to block the advances of Steve Robbins. They're all going to settle it out, at least for the moment. Almost 3 wide further back. I think that was Brian Ordo up into the wall. Whoa, Massey!
Oh, Massey!
Wow, that's going to have to be a caution. Hogue is collected. Oh, Chuck Kerrigan, the 45's up into the catch fence.
That was a really late caution.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Hogue is getting going. Michael Massey, he's stuck. Yeah, he had to tow that car back. He was stuck in the fence.
Car that I think clobbered him was the 15 of Sean Kerrigan, or actually, no, I think Kerrigan might have actually been the one that hit, I think it might have been the 71 of Brian Ordo. There were a lot of cars that took some hard licks in that one. Go back and see what happened.
That was a big wreck, and I think that's just everyone going for whatever they can get here late in the race.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that caution laps do not count. We'll have to wait and see if that is the case or not.
It seems that way, yeah. It seems like the laps are not counting down, so we'll still have 3 laps to go when they get going.
Let's take a look at this contact here, and this was right up at the front of the field in a battle for around the 4th position. It's Michael Massey trying to pass Tim Deschwart. Slams the outside wall and then spins down into Brian Hogue. Hogue's the one that gets hit by Kerrigan, and it's actually Spangler that sends the 45 of Massey up and into the catch fence.
Interesting to note here, Seth, the lights are out on the pace truck, and the restarts have been changed to single file.
We'll have to see if this is going to play to the advantage, maybe, possibly, of Ryan Stillwell, based on the fact now he's not going to be trapped on that inside line like he was in the last restart.
Yeah, he's getting really close to Grant Wesley. He's getting ready to go and make a run at them. They'll have 3 laps to do it.
10 cars still running as Massey and Schroyer are out of the race. Here we go, 3 laps to go here at Eldora, and the battle's going to be for second going into 1.
Yeah, Grant Wesley got a really good start, but Stillwell off of turn 2. Gets the wall a couple times, but still holding in.
Tries to close the gap up about car length and a half, coming off of turn 4, hitting the line for 2 laps to go. Stillwell, that last time by, was a little bit slower than Wesley.
Wesley got the wall off of turn 2 that time. They're really pushing it really hard right now. They're both hitting the wall. Stillwell closed the gap in 3 and 4, though.
You gotta wonder which is the most difficult position to be in.
He's
the
there,
hunter or the
contact,
They both saved it. They're still gonna be side by side, maybe here off of turn 2.
Yeah, they're side by side in turn 3. Who wants it more? Stillwell tries to slide. He slides up.
He got the block there. Oh,
Stillwell got him. Yeah, Stillwell got him on that last lap.
He got exactly done what he needed to, where he cleared the 88 and slowed the 88's opportunity to cross him over with momentum out of turn 4.
Oh man, what a finish! What a quick little shootout. Last 3 laps to go. But you have to think what wouldn't have happened without that second caution. You know, Scott Schroyer had pretty much a 1-second gap over Timothy Deschwart, who had a 1-second gap over Grant Wesley, and he ends up getting beat by Stillwell and Grant Wesley after being in second the entire race.
And think about the adventure that Stillwell had to go through in this race after he spun out, being up inside of the top 5, had to battle his way back from, I think it was as far back as 10th place. Yes, he did have the 8 of those cautions, but wasn't an easy task fighting his way back up to this race win. And I think we just ran the same race over twice here tonight, because it's the exact same finishing positions for our podium.
Yeah, same finishing order, completely different car, and it was achieved in a different way, but still the same top 3 drivers in the same order from last race.
Much closer finish as well, as it was 5/100ths of a second here for the late models. Stillwell over Wesley, with Tim Deschwart bringing it home in third place. But for Ryan Stillwell, this is his league-leading third win of the season, and definitely is going to open up the points gap a little bit over Tim Deschwart, with Deschwart finishing in third. Patrick Spangler, a great run for him in fourth place. Steve Robbins in fifth. We ended up having, I believe, 9 of our 10 drivers finish on the lead lap. Monksguard finishing a lap down, with Michael Massey and Scott Schroyer out of tonight's event. But to your point, that 57 of Scott Schroyer, the question of what might have been had we had gone green from the first caution to the checkered flag.
Yeah, he had a pretty decent gap, so definitely that second caution with under 10 laps to go really changed with about 15 laps to go really changed the entire outcome of that race. And I didn't expect Ryan Stillwell to come in with the win, but yet again, he wins the street stocks and he wins the late models in a much more exciting way.
It'd be interesting to ask these guys as well about, which position is it easier to be in with how close they were there on that shootout. Do you want to be the car out in front determining the line you want to be in, or do you want to be that second place car and try and see if you can do something different to the driver that's ahead of you? It was really interesting to watch the strategy of the lines they ran going into those final few corners on that final lap. Let's go down and let's get our third place finisher, Tim Deschwart. Hey, Tim, it's Bronson and Seth up here again in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Well, man, I mean, we asked you the question pre-race, what the difference was going to be here between the street stocks and the late models. You were in the thick of it again, right up there at the front all race long. You're bringing home third place. What's some of the takeaways you were able to have here from the late model race as opposed to the earlier event?
My takeaway is there's a lot of guys in here that are getting really good. It's getting harder to finish up towards the front. The track slicked off pretty good. The top side was the way to go, but the bottom came in there late, I believe.
We ended up seeing a couple more cautions here in this one than we saw in the street stock race, which led to those late race restarts. How difficult was it to be able to then get back into a rhythm again after you guys had been about 25 to 30 laps on a long green flag run?
Yeah, it always sucks getting out of rhythm like that, but it happens. It's part of racing.
Yeah, you ran pretty much second all race long, and you come up a little bit short of that. And really, do you think if it stayed green, you would have had anything to catch Scott Schroyer, or were you just kind of keeping second and watching the gaps behind you? Because there was about a second gap between the guy ahead and the guy behind, and you looked pretty comfortable, and the cautions kind of kicked off what was a wild melee to the finish.
Yeah, I think I did have something for Scott. I mean, we had a good race going there. I had it rolling around the top, and he slid up a little bit, and I got into the back of him, which I feel pretty bad about. But yeah, we had a good race going there for quite a while, and then I hit the wall and slid back a little bit, and then had to come back.
Well, Tim, obviously a great night for you overall. Third place run in the street stocks, a third place run here tonight, the late models. For one final time, we're going to turn the microphone over to you and let's do some shout outs.
Yep, I'd like to thank RTG, Terry Bowman, Brian Orto, Brian Hogue, Grant Wesley, and Terry for paying for the broadcast, and you guys for putting it on.
Well, that's Tim Deschwart, brings it home third place here tonight in back-to-back races here during the Eldora weekend. Congrats on a great run, and good luck next week at Linear.
All right, thank you.
Get our second place finisher, Grant Wesley. Hey, Grant, it's Bronson and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios again. You got us?
Yep, I got you.
Well, man, I mean, you came up I think it was about half a second actually, short of taking home the victory earlier on tonight in the street stocks race. Closer here in this one, 5/100ths of a second. You were the guy that had the preferred line going into the corner. What was it you had to do to make sure that you were going to be able to get Stillwell at the line this time?
Oh, there in that last corner, I did the crossover too late, and I just didn't have enough run coming off turn 4 for the finish. But yeah, congrats to Ryan, man. I love whenever it comes down to a last corner pass. I hate being on the backside of it and getting second, but I'll take it any day. It was a pretty good race. I started the race off. I was kind of off in left field a little bit. I started on the front row, and I was just lighting the tires up and couldn't get the car under me, and I was falling back, and I fell back to fourth and kind of settled in there, and then about halfway through the race, I finally settled down and got the car under me, and I was pretty much running half throttle there through the slick, and it was working really well.
One thing, Grant, that you guys did here tonight was ran two different types of cars at the same identical track. And we looked here at the difference in speed that you guys were able to carry into the corner. These late model cars a lot faster. You guys have been out there in the street stocks for 50 laps, a little bit slower lap times, about 4 seconds faster here with the late models. Is it difficult when you're running the same track but two different cars to kind of transition from one type of car to the other?
Yeah, and that's that 10-minute warm up we had before the heats. You kind of use that time to kind of adjust to the different car. The street stocks, for instance, I was entering a lot wider. I was up closer to the wall on entry and getting up in the cushion sooner. But with this car, I was having to more diamond the corner off and run it back down the hill coming off.
I was actually going to ask about, how the track evolved differently, but you kind of just covered it there. So really, it just comes down to, we saw a lot of people kind of back and forth throughout the field, and what's it kind of like out there with the late models, like racing in a field like that? I've never personally done it. I don't think Seth has either. So I'm just kind of curious of what it is from like a driver standpoint to race a late model at a track that changes as much as it does with like Eldora.
Yeah, that's the magical thing about iRacing. How they get this track surface to change the way they get it to change is just beyond me. But yeah, that's especially here with the late models, since we're turning faster laps and we got more power, wider tire. The track, it got super slick, and I know there was one late restart there. I restarted on the bottom, and I ran, so I had the top figured out, and I felt like I was closing in on them. So that was working good for me, but I restarted on the bottom, and so I decided, well, since I'm down here, I'll just try rolling the very bottom around the wall, and that worked really well too. And that's what's so amazing about iRacing is that there's so many different lines that you can make work, and you just have to search around the track.
Well, Grant, obviously, Eldora tonight was kind to you in one way with finishing in back-to-back runner-up positions, but I know you would have loved to have been able to be P1 in both of them. But great performances here tonight at this dirt-covered half mile, and we're going to turn the microphone over to you one last time and let you do some shout-outs.
Yep. Congratulations to Ryan Stillwell on the win. Much deserved to win. I'd like to thank the RTG owners, David Cannon, Terry Bauman, and Sean Prime. My fellow admins, Brian Hogue and Brian Ordo. I'd like to thank Too Slow Graphics and Terry Bauman for sponsoring tonight's event. You guys for doing the broadcast. My teammates at XFM, my girlfriend, my mom and dad, and yep.
That's Grant Wesley, brings it home second place here tonight in the late model race. So close to being able to pick up his second win of the season here for the RTG Late Model Series, but we wish you luck for next week at Lanier. Maybe you can pick it up there, and for now, congrats on great performances here tonight at Eldora.
Yeah, and also my nieces Chloe and Maya are watching, I just found out, so big shout out to them. And thanks for the broadcast, guys.
Not a problem, as we're now going to go down to victory lane one final time, and he sweeps here tonight at Eldora. That is Ryan Stillwell. Hey, Ryan, it's Bronson and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
I got you.
Well, man, I probably shouldn't have said over in the street stock race that you had a slightly easier time of it out there in that clean air, because, boy, you put a lot of pressure on yourself here tonight to be able to snatch the W away in the late model race. We saw you have that near moment off turn 4. You fell all the way back to 9th, had to fight your way back up there to the race win. Talk about the adventure of working your way from the back to the front.
Honestly, those are the races I love the most. I have this real bad knack of messing up mid-race or late races. I'm getting a good run and having to work my way back through the pack, but it's so fun. I don't mind it at all. But I got hit there with somebody coming off the wall, and it just made the car rotate, and I didn't want to wreck anybody, so I stayed in it. Managed to catch it after the field went by. I got back in it, and from there I was just like, time to search, time to find, and time to catch. And I was running low, high, mid-high, mid-low, high. There were so many lines out there on the track. It was very racy there towards the end.
And when we talked to you earlier, when you had the win in the street stock race, looking forward to this late model race, you talked about keeping the splitter on the race car, not tearing the car up too much. And you were one of the first guys we saw get up into the wall there. I think it was on lap 2. Did you feel any kind of difference in the car getting up into the wall there that early on?
Yeah, so really the first time into the corner, Ordo went down a little and he kind of got loose, and I pushed up, got into the wall, trying to avoid and make sure I didn't turn him. And from that moment on, I could tell I didn't have the grip. But as the track slicks off, it kind of becomes a little more even. And I was just hoping and praying that the track was going to keep slicking off, because the more it slicked off, the faster the car was, because everybody had damage and everybody was working around it.
You were mentioning how you like races where you're coming through the field after making a mistake and being able to capitalize back on it. But really, how hard is it to pass in a track and car combination like this with a field of guys running every which line ahead of you? We watched you kind of catch back up and make a couple moves, but then really after the caution, you kind of shot up out of nowhere and was able to get up to second, third position after being about fifth or sixth, and you were able to get the win on that last lap. So how difficult is it to pass in the late model at Eldora?
Definitely starting high those last few restarts helped a lot, because the high lane was pretty fast. But I had a lot of ability to be able to, since I ran everywhere, to know that I could put the car somewhere and run a slider, or it would hold and I could run underneath somebody if I needed to. And I think that was my biggest advantage there late, that added up to it. But really, these cars have enough power. If somebody makes a mistake, you can get around them really easy. It just boils down to that. And luckily, I made less mistakes than everybody else, but we all made them, and it was wild and crazy, and it was a fun race, and I had a blast.
Well, you certainly made it exciting for us up here in the booth as well. A crazy finish here tonight. We know that these these short tracks, always seem to bring about exciting finishes. 5/100ths of a second, the difference between you and Grant Wesley. And man, you sweep the weekend here tonight, Eldora, as well. Tremendous that you're able to come in 2 different race cars, same track, and be able to still pick up the W in 2 different ways. One final time here, Ryan, we're going to turn the microphone over to you and let's do some shout outs.
Once again, I'd like to thank my sponsors, BW Sports One and Checkers and Wreckers. They've been with me a long time. 300 Customs for the wrap on the late model. Terry and RTG for putting on a great show as always. It's a great group of people. We may not be a big group, but we're all real good friends, and we all have a lot of fun together. There's no arguing or anything like that. And you guys for putting on a great broadcast as always.
That's Ryan Stillwell. 2 for 2 here tonight at Eldora, picking up his 3rd win of the season in the RTG Late Model Series. Congrats on 2 tremendous results, 2 tremendous victories, and wish you luck next week at Lanier.
Thank you, sir.
And that's going to conclude our coverage here tonight for both the RTG Dirt Street Stock Series as well as the RTG Dirt Late Model Series. And I mean, Bronson, one thing I think we can definitely take away from both of those events is the fact that these drivers came out here with a mentality, especially on those restarts, of, hey, this track's going to start to go away. We're not going to find the grip later on in this one. We've got to take advantage of the grip now. And that's why we saw them really force the issue on a lot of these restarts.
Yeah, they were really all over the track with the restarts, especially, and the issue was definitely forced a couple times. And overall, it was just a really solid night of racing, though.
Now, next week, these drivers are going to be heading to Lanier Dirt. That track is 0.380 miles in length, so it's much shorter than Eldora was tonight. With the racing that we saw here this evening, it just kind of says to me that the competition is going to continue to stack up. But is there anybody that can get up here and battle with Ryan Stillwell and Timothy Deschwart in either one of the series? Because it really just seems like these two have been the class of the field all year long.
Well, I mean, from tonight alone, it seems like Grant Wesley can definitely get up there and compete with them if given the right situations and making the races and whatnot. And he did beat Timothy both races tonight, but not quite able to get by Ryan. But he had the late model race won right up until that last corner. And I definitely think you could see Grant Wesley putting in as a third car to look out for.
Definitely agree with you. Well, next week, these drivers will be at Lanier. Our next broadcast here for both respective series will be on November 20th, as we'll be bringing you race number 12 at Limaland, getting closer to the end of the season. We've also got the season finale on December 18th at Knoxville, when a championship in both respective series will be crowned. But here tonight, a wild one at Eldora. Bronson, appreciate you joining me in the booth.
Always fun, Seth.
Thanks to everybody that tuned in this evening. Hope that you guys enjoyed our coverage here tonight as Ryan Stillwell sweeps the weekend here at Eldora for the RTG iRacing weekend. For Bronson Stafford, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast this evening courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.